Hello everyone, welcome to day one, and today we're looking at a passage called The Development of Exploration and Scientific Research in Antarctica. Demak, bugungi passajimiz Antarktikada qanaqa qilib exploration boshlangan, qanaqa qilib ilmiy research boshlangani haqida ekan. Alright? So the first thing I want to do, har doim biza passage maqdaliga qiziqamiz. Demak, bugungi passage Antarktikada ilmiy izlanishlar qanday boshlangan. Chunki u tabiiyki yo'da qiyinchiliklar bo'lgan, shu qiyinchiliklar qanaqa yengib o'tilganligi haqida bo'ladi. Mavzu haqida juda qiziqishim kerak. So that's why I always read the title. Agar title menga yordam bermasa, subtitle ham yo'q bo'lsa, birinchi gapini o'qib olishim kerak har doim. Men savollarga qachon o'taman? Savollarga passage nima haqidaligini bilganimdan keyin o'taman. Alright, I always do that. Today, in this case, I already know what the passage is about. It's going to be Antarctica, so I can go and look at the questions. Keyin savollarga qarayotganimda ikkita narsaga e'tibor berishim kerak. Har doim nechta savol turi bor va qaysi savol turlari bor. Va shu o'rinda men aytib o'taman, IELTS readingda ikkita savol turi ordida kelmaydi. Those not in order. The two questions. Which paragraph contains the following information? Match the names with the list of statements. And one more, classify the following statements as being true for A, B, sometimes C, or D, maybe, right? So, and in order, everything else, every other type of question. Xo'p, buni informatsiya siz uchun odamlar texnika bormi deydigan narsa mana shu jihatdan kerak bo'lishi mumkin. Savollarning ordida kelish degani bir keling shu o'rinda o'rgataman. Like I'll tell you that. Like for example, if the question birinchi savolda, ikkinchi savolda mana bu joydan topgan bo'lsangiz, bir mana bu yerdan kelish kerak. Uchinchi savol, masalan 4-chi savol mana bu yerdan topgan bo'lsangiz, 3 bu yoqda kelish kerak. Bu order hamma qolgan savol turlari, demak ikkalasi ham ordida keladigan savol tur ekan. Bu degani, masalan uchun 6 ni bu yoqdan topsam, 7 bu yoqda keladi degani emas. 7 mana bu joydan ham kelishi mumkin. Alright, har bitta savol turining o'zi uchun order bor. Lekin 8 bu yoqdan kelmaydi, chunki 7 dan 13 gacha bo'lgan savollar ham ordida keladigan savollar. Shuning uchun 7 ni mana shu joydan topsangiz, 7 6dan oldi kelishi mumkin, chunki bu yangi savol turi. Lekin 8 aniq 7dan keyin kelishi kerak. Alright? So bu jihatdan menimcha testda bilishingiz kerak bo'lgan yagona narsalardan bittasi shu. Vaqt tejashdan yordam beradi. Qolgan narsalar hammasi qaysi savolni qaysi joyini o'qish kerakligi texnika bo'lmasa, faqat testda yagona narsa siz o'qib tushuna olishligingizga bog'liq. U mana reading comprehension, what does it depend on? Reading comprehension is ikkita narsaga: vocabulary, your grammar. Okay, grammar ni bilmasangiz, reading comprehension is tabiiyki tushunmay qolasiz. Keling, boshlaymiz endi. Until the har bitta savolda o'qiyotganimizda, biza tekstni o'qiyotganimizda o'tkazib bo'lmaydigan so'zni topamiz. Alright? Until the 2019s, mana shu so'zni o'tkazishda iloji yo'q-ku. Chunki 1920s da menimcha umuman iloji yo'q o'tkazib olishdi. Humans relied on animals to explore Antarctica. Avvallari odamlar hayvonlardan foydalangan deyapti. Herbert Wilkinson, demak buni ham o'tkazishda iloji yo'q. Failed, anshunga degan didn't degan. Did not. Ko'pincha e'tibor bermay ketadi o'quvchilar. Didn't fly across Antarctica in 1928. Yana ikkita so'z bor. Ikkalasida ham men o'tkazib yuborishimni iloji yo'q. To'g'ri joy topganingizdan keyin sekin o'qiysiz. Tez o'qish anaqasi emas bu, o'qish kitob emas bu. The expedition of 1934-1937 confirmed the new theory about the Antarctic Peninsula. Tasdiqladi deyapti. 1934-yilda yangi teoriyani. Lincoln and Ellsworth was influenced by the flight of Richard Bayard. The flight influence qildi. The government of USA claimed part of Antarctica. 1935-da Antarktikadagi bir qismini maniki dedi. After 1940, nations rather than individuals paid for it. Okay. Scientific research, one word only. In 19 report called for research into the whales. Okay, whales top olsam bo'ldi bu yog'iga ketarkan. Researchers worked from the station and agreed and also station from several keyword har doim adjectivelarga e'tibor beramiz. Pay close attention. Tip always pay attention to adjectives and adverbs. All right, it's easy to find their synonyms. And another thing, local companies paid something which funded discovery investigations. Local company nimadir to'ladiki, endi completion savollarni qilayotganimizda 3 ta narsaga e'tibor beramiz. Completion savollarni xato qilishda o'zi ham bir mahorat. Chunki birinchi o'rinda grammatik jihatdan to'g'ri bo'lishi kerak. Mana severalda ko'plikda olib kelish kerak, to'g'rimi? Ikkinchi o'rinda o'sha joydan ishlasa bo'lishi kerak va collocation jihatdan to'g'ri bo'lishi kerak. Demak, 3 ta narsaga e'tibor berar ekanman: grammar, collocation and logic. And the first two polar, the effects of, mana 9-chi savolga ham e'tibor bersangizlar, nimanidir ta'siri bo'lishi kerak. O'sha narsani ta'sirini research qilsa ham bo'lishi kerak. So you always need to use your logic. Keep that in mind. Always use your head. Antarctica affects the world something. Again, the keyword is here world. So it was the focus of IGY. Vivian Fuchs expedition across Antarctica using special something. It has to be plural noun because there is no article. The total amount of something was calculated, and one result was the establishment of something to control aspects of Antarctica's future. All right. So, mana in order degan narsa qachon keladi, sizga foydali bo'ladi. Qachonki men bu narsani birinchisiga qarab qo'ysam, buni ham birinchisiga qarab qo'ysam bo'ldi. Men 7 ga qachon qarayman, ungacha 1 dan 6 gacha fokus qilsam bo'ladi. Great Witkin degan narsa keladi. Esingizda bo'lsa, 7 dan buyog'i qachon 7 ni topib olganimdan keyin kelish kerak edi. Ana shu jihatdan odamlar test texnikasi deyishi mumkin, boshqa texnika yo'q. Bu ham texnika emas, bu oddiygina farosatdan boshqa narsa emas. It's just common sense. All right, you use a bit of logic and that's what everyone could come to conclude. So let's get started. The modern scientific age in Antarctica really began with the introduction of aircraft in the 1920s. Zamonaviy ilmiy izlanish davri aircraftlardan keyin boshlandi, ya'ni samolyotlar boshlandi, keldi. Aircraft transformed the possibilities of exploring the frozen continent. Mana imkoniyatlarni oshirib yubordi. Frozen continent deb Antarktikani aytyapti. Because before that Antarctic travel had been bundan oldin limited to the use of dog teams pulling sledges. Okay, mana birinchi savolga javob keldi. Chunki bundan oldin deyapti, Antarktikaga sayohat faqat itlar chanalarni tortish orqali bo'lgan. So that's humans rely on that? Yes. So the answer is going to be true. Right? Because before that, it had been limited to the use of dog teams pulling sledges. Dogs are animals, so the answer is going to be true. Next one. A plane, ikkinchisini o'qib olaman. U 1928-yilda ucha olmadi deyapti. Plane could survey thousands of square kilometers an hour. Samolyot yuzlab kvadratni bir soatda o'rgana olgan, equivalent to a whole summer's working using. Avvallari esa itlar bilan bu butun yoz ketgan. However, the first planes in Antarctica such as Lockheed Wager were unreliable. These samolyotlar unreliable bo'lgan ekan. This made polar flying particularly hazardous, difficult, dangerous degani, since there was little chance of rescue if a plane was forced down in remote range. Ularni qutqarish qiyin bo'lgan ekan. All right, do I have anything about Herbert Wilkins? No. It was 1920 Herbert Wilkinson 1928-yilda hoped to make the first flight in Antarctica, attempting to cross the continent o'tmoqchi bo'libdi. A further attempt was also unsuccessful. 1930-yildagi yana bitta harakat ham unsuccessful bo'ldi degani, ikkinchisi ham unsuccessful bo'ldi degani. It also means the first one was unsuccessful too. 1928-yildagi o'tolmagan, didn't fly. Yes, another true. Ikkinchisi ham muvaffaqiyatsiz bo'ldi degani, birinchisi ham muvaffaqiyatsiz bo'ldi degani. So, but Wilkinson's aerial photographs, I guess I hope man to'g'ri pronunciation qilyapman deb o'ylayman. But there could be, you gotta have to check it. Aerial, I guess it means taken from the sky. Okay, taken from the sky. seemed to show that the Antarctic Peninsula was in fact an island, right? Was in fact an island again, not part of the continent as previously been thought. Avvallar o'ylangan ekan Antarctic Peninsula kontinentni bir qismi deb o'ylagan ekan. Lekin buni rasmlari yo alohida deb ko'rsatibdi. It was alohida island deb ko'rsatibdi. This new theory caused some excitement among geographers and cartographers. Keyin mana mapga qiziqadigan odamlar, mapni o'rganadigan odamlar, geographerlarga o'rtasida bu qiziqish uyg'otibdi. However, the British Greenland expedition proved conclusively that the Antarctic Peninsula was attached to the rest of the continent. Yo keyin yana eski teoriyani isbotlabdi. Bu ham bo'lsa, bu peninsula kontinentning bir qismi degan xulosaga kelibdi. Yangi teoriya tasdiqladimi? No, it actually proved that those photos wrong. They said no, those actually no, they said the old theory is still true. The Antarctic Peninsula is actually part of the continent, they said. But the aerial photos were saying like Arctic Peninsula is separate, but it wasn't separate. So the answer is going to be false. Okay, mana bunga qaramayotganim sababi 7 dan 13 gacha, chunki Great Witkinda aytgani yo'q. The famous American pilot Richard Beerwood flew over the South Pole, uchibdi. Another American, Lincoln Ellsworth, made a successful Antarctic flight. Keyin 1929 da bittasi uchgan bo'lsa, 1935 da yana bittasi uchibdi. Buni oti Lincoln ekan. Although Ellsworth claimed sector of the continent for the US, 1935-yilda uchgani kontinentga uchganda bizaniki debdi, US tiki degan ekan. American government did not follow it up. American government aytibdi, yo bizaniki emas debdi. Sizlar bilsangizlar, Antarctic government bu hammaga tegishli joy. Bitta davlatniki emas, hech kim o'ng qilmaydi uni. So, did the government claim bizaniki deb aytdimi? Yo'q. Shu uchun javobimiz false bo'ladi. Savolda aytyapti, Amerika hukumati Antarktika bizniki deb aytdi deyapti. Lekin tekstda yo'q, ularni uchuvchisi aytgan gapga qo'shilmadi. Yo'q, bizaniki degan gapni ular takrorlamadi. Who was influenced by whom? We don't know that. So the answer is going to be not given. Ikkitasi berilgan, lekin kim influence qilingani aytilmagan. Birinchisi Richard Beerwood birinchi uchgan, bu degani undan influence bo'ldi degani emas. Okay, so the answer is going to be 4 here, right? 4 is from here. In 1938, the German explorer Alfred Richter led an expedition south across the sea once the Antarctic was reached. The aircraft had been stored in pieces. Southga qarab ana qilibdi, ekspeditsiya qilibdi. Once the Antarctica yetganda, the aircraft had been stored in pieces on the ship's deck was reconstructed. Shipni rangda saqlagan ekan. The airplane was then launched and used to stake a claim to one section by dropping thousands of tiny flags from the air. Bu lekin nemislar bizaniki degan fikrda aytgan ekan. A significant motivation behind many Antarctic expeditions right up to the 1940s was simply the spirit of adventure. Ko'pchilik expedition qilayotgan odamlarniki prosta sayohatga qiziqishdan bo'lgan ekan. Many of these expeditions had a large measure of private funding. That's, you see, I'm already finding that individuals paid for it. Ko'pchiligida private funding bo'lgan. Often the subsequent book about the expedition was a means of clearing debts. Keyin shundan keyin kitob yozgan ekan. Kitobdan pullarni yig'ib olgan ekan. The vast majority of Antarctic expeditions since 1940, however, have been funded by governments, usually for political and scientific research. 1940-yildan keyingi hammasi deyapti, uni hukumatlar to'ladigan nations. Alright, the answer is going to be true. Bunaqa passage 1da mana bu nations, governments o'zi aslida hozir ma'nosi bir xil. Unaqa overthink qilmaymiz. Lower level kandidatlar ana shunaqa narsalarni overthink qiladi. But because IELTS bunaqa jiniketda narsalardan test qilmaydi, ma'nodan test qiladi. Alright, so they actually test on the meaning. So please always pay attention to that. So once you find the same meaning, just choose the answer without thinking too hard. Alright, so I can now stay focused on the remaining questions. Apparently nothing else was coming and nothing was extraordinary. The setting up of the Research and Development Committee in Britain was a significant development in the history of science. Demak, Britaniyada mana shunaqa committee tuzilibdi, o'sha keyingi bosqich bo'libdi. The committee's report, published in 1920, focused particularly on the sea that circles Antarctica. The report proposed detailed scientific investigations of the physiology and behavior of the whales inhabiting the region. Whales. The result, a shore station at Grytviken, that's now, on the island, was occupied by scientists for 6 years. Scientists In addition, three research ships were commissioned. 3 research ships. So 3 is for several. So 7 is going to be ships. All right. They travel through the Southern Ocean all year, researching physical and chemical oceanography. The high quality of the specimens and data collected by scientists produced nearly 40 large volumes of reports. 40 report. This entire project came to be known as Discovery Investigations. That's question number 8. The costs of the Discovery Investigations were completely covered by the proceeds of a tax that was placed on the whaling business operating in the area. Daromad qayerdan olingan ekan? Daromad o'sha taxni bizneslarga tax qo'yilgan ekan, whaling bizneslarga. Operating in their area degan local companiesga synonym bo'ladi. Business operating in their localga. Proceeds degani mana shu daromaddan degan, profit degani. Qaysi daromad qayerdan olingan ekan? Taxdan olingan ekan. So the answer is going to be tax. Next one. It was in 1987 that the idea of international scientific collaboration at the poles was first proposed. Now, we need to collaborate, okay, international collaboration, with the aim of collecting valuable data. The result was the first polar year. The second polar year was organized 50 years later, involving 44 nations of scientists. Both of these polar years had been timed to coincide with the period when the sun was at the lowest level of activity in order to monitor the impact this had. İki safarga ham expeditionimiz quyoshni leveli past ancha tushib ketgan ekan. Shuni ta'sirini o'rganish bo'lgan ekan. Impact is going to be sent for effect. So it was both times was researching the impact of the sun. So much interest was aroused by this process. Ko'p qiziqish bo'lgan ekan va 25 yildan keyin yana bitta bo'libdi. It was decided the scientific program should be expanded to cover the globe. Butun dunyoda bo'lish kerak degan ekan. This new project was renamed International Geophysical Year. Antarctica was chosen as an area for particular attention. Ayniqsa Antarktikaga e'tibor berilgan ekan because of its important influence on the global weather. Okay, IGI'da fokusi bo'lishiga sabab because of the world so'ziga synonym global bo'ladi. Nimaga ta'sir qilgani uchun ekan? Because of the impact of the global weather. So, throughout this period, politics were kept firmly in the background. Politics, science-ga aralashmagan, karoch. IGI took place in this. It was during this period the last great Antarctic journey was accomplished. Oxirgi eng katta great Antarctic expedition bo'lgan ekan. Dr. Vivian Fuchs privately funded trans-Antarctic expedition finally achieved what the explorer had first set out to do. Birinchi qilmoqchi bo'lgan odamni ishini qilibdi. Driving modified tractors, Fuchs' team traversed Antarctica from coast to coast in 1990 days covered in this mini. Okay, driving modified tractors. What did they use? They used special tractors. So the answer is going to be tractors. All right, so that's going to be 11, right? Then 12. The total amount of something was calculated. But there were scientific objectives as well. Faqat uni borishmas, ilmiy maqsadlar ham bo'lgan. Because expeditions measurements allowed the first estimates to be made about the volume of ice. Again, pay attention. Calculate so'zini qanaqa paraphrase qilgan. Measurements allowed the first estimates to be made degan calculate ga synonym bo'ladi. Demak, 12-savolimizning javobi the total amount of ice bo'ladi. Ice volume ga synonym total amount bo'ladi. Right? One result of the IGI was the establishment of something so successful by the IGI that it was extended further year in order to promote the Antarctic states. It also led to, that's synonym for one result, to the signing of a treaty by the members of international community to regulate the human conduct, means human behavior. So that's going to be question number 13. So again, the synonym is here. Establishment is synonym for signing. Okay, so the answer is going to be treaty. So I'm going to very quickly, in addition to the notes, I'm going to be very quickly making the paraphrase table. So words in questions and similar words in the passage. All right, so let's do it real quick. Relied on animals, dogs pulling sledges. Right. 2. Failed to fly in 1928. It means another attempt, I guess another attempt in 1930 was unsuccessful. 3. Confirm the new theory. Confirm a new theory. Or actually contradiction. There was contradiction. The first theory, the previous theory, was that it was a separate island, but here it says attached to the rest of it, just meaning there are no specific words. Bunga specific so'zlar bo'lmadi, umumiy ma'noda. O'zi yozmasam ham bo'lardi. 5 ga keladigan bo'lsak, claimed, didn't follow it up dedi. Bu ham o'zi tiniq so'z yo'q. 6, nations paid for it. 6 nations paid, governments funded. Right? 7 several so'zini o'rniga 3. 8 local companies o'rniga whaling businesses operating in the area. Tax proceeds of a tax. Proceeds degan daromad deganigina. 9 effects of the sun. The effects of the sun impact this head. The impact this head degan bor edi. 10 the world's weather, the global weather. Special tractors, modified tractors. 12 the total amount of ice, volume of ice. Calculate estimates to be made. 13 let one result led to establishment of treaty, signing of a treaty. Alright, so in the bunisiga ayniqsa yuqori leveldagilardan ko'ra, mana misol uchun kimdir ko'p 35 ta topayotgan bo'lsa, 35 ta topayotgan odam nima qilayotganini biladi. Bu test faqat lug'at testligini tushunadi. Lekin siz mana bugungi biz har reading video explanationda shu narsani ta'kidlab o'tamiz va shu narsani qilishimiz so'zlarni tezroq sinonimini ko'rishga yordam beradi. Yes, that's something you gotta get used to doing, and then over time you hopefully start seeing paraphrase immediately. This test is nothing but a test of your vocabulary.